Hey YouTubers, I had a company contact me with regards to leasing a vehicle from them, leasing a truck. And I've been a company driver since I started driving, but I thought, what the heck, I might as well look into it, see what see what it was all about. I never really delved into crunching the numbers before. But to summarize, it didn't come across as a very good deal. So I wanted to share that with y'all, because I figure I'm not the only one who thought about it and did it. And the way I look at it, if I had moved forward with it, I would have got myself into a hell of a lot of trouble. So what I did was I put together a spreadsheet, a balance sheet, weighing the weekly revenue variables versus the weekly expense variables, and plugged in all the coefficients, the price of the vehicle, first year versus new truck versus used truck, some of the variables in the revenue side, detention and stop offs per week, and how many miles a week I'm running, the fuel mileage, the fuel cost, and so forth, and kind of crunch the numbers. I called the lease company back and verified all the numbers with them, and then set forth to put together this spreadsheet to figure it all out. And here's what I came up with. So first of all, the truck that they approached me with was a 2015 Lone Star. It was $220,000 was the purchase price. So I wanted to be able to toggle back and forth between new versus old. So is it a new truck? Yes. Is it the first year of the lease? Yes. And the purchase price was $250,000 or $220,000, which, by the way, is pretty pricey. I think probably you could do much better if you went just straight to a dealer or got a loan from a bank. But that's how they get you. They get people who don't have any way to finance a truck, and they end up paying a heck of a lot more for the truck from the get-go. And where that factor really gets you is down here on the what I call the ROI, which is return on investment. So you can see that a $220,000 truck with a payment, and I'll get into this in a minute, after you make your payments and so forth, won't pay itself off for 4.84 years. That's a long time, and that's with no time off. That's working 52 weeks a year. And if you take 6 weeks a year, which I've got plugged in here as a variable, that truck doesn't pay itself off for 5.47 years, 5.5 years to pay that truck off. Actually, let me change that fuel mileage. And okay, so based on actually I calculated everything at 2,500 miles, which is dispatch miles. Well, let me start from scratch here. This is a weekly revenue variables, which is this top section here. This is pretty basic. It's how much they pay for loaded and empty miles. In this case, it was 94 cents a mile. Now that number is increased by 10%, because I calculated many times that PC miler, which is what everybody uses to calculate route miles, is basically favors the company, disadvantages the driver by anywhere from 8 to 10%. So I use 10% as a number. Even now, as a company driver, when they dispatch a load to me that's 2,000 miles, I know I'm going to have to go 2,200 miles to make it work. And I use that as a factor for how much time I'm going to spend driving, not so much, and how many hours it's going to take to make the trip. Not so much a revenue thing for me as a company driver, but at least I was aware that I needed to plug that in to the hub mile, or to the dispatch miles as well. This particular company paid 37 cents a mile fuel surcharge, which covers about half of your fuel, by the way. That doesn't reimburse you for the full cost of your fuel by any means. The estimated stop-offs, which is additional revenue, figure 3 of those a week, maybe 4, but I figured 3 on the underside. $50 per stop-off. This company pays $50 a stop-off. And then $9 per detention 4 times. Figure I'm going to get detained 4 times a week for $36. And then broke it all down to the 2,500 mile number here. It works out to be $1.38 revenue per mile. $1.38 per mile is what that truck is earning. Then in the center column here we have the weekly revenue variables, and that breaks down into 2 columns, or into 2 categories: the mileage expense and the fixed expense. The mileage expense is based on miles that the truck's driven. It varies depending on the mileage. So the payment, this particular company charges 25 cents a mile to purchase the truck. Some companies will give you a flat monthly payment. So if the truck's not moving, you're still making the payment. In this particular case, if the truck is not in motion, you're not going to incur the payment for those miles that you're not rolling, which is probably a better of the 2 deals, but depending on the rate, of course. So this company was charging 25 cents a mile for the truck payment. It works out to be $625 a week, or $2,600 a month if you're to work on a 4-week month. It's a lot of money. Then you have the on a new truck, a 13-cent maintenance escrow. 10 cents of that was to extend the bumper-to-bumper warranty from 400,000 to 600,000 miles. Keeping in mind that you're going to be driving that truck 7.65 years before your rate of return kicks in with your time off. 7.65 years is a long time to drive a truck and not have anything go wrong with it. And that's going to put you at 100,000 miles a year, 110,000, 120,000 miles a year. That's going to put you well outside the maintenance. So at some point towards the latter end of the lease, you're going to be very, very liable for maintenance issues with the truck that will not be covered under warranty. And that's what the other 2 cents a mile is for, is non-maintenance, or non-warranty type things like brakes, tires, etc. That's a maintenance escrow that they keep, that the leaser keeps on you, and that they draw from. One interesting note there: if you incur a maintenance-related expense and you don't have money in the escrow, you're going to get a bill anyway. So you're going to have some cash to float you through the initial stages of your lease to make sure that you're not, if you do unfortunately break down, particularly with an older truck or a used truck, you're going to be able to sustain some time down if you don't have money in your escrow to cover it. Otherwise, you're going to have to walk away from the lease right off the bat. So if you were to lose an engine or something and you weren't under warranty, you're going to be you kind of going to have to walk away from that one. Then the fuel, which is in this case is at 2,500 miles a week. It works out to be 458 gallons. Now the fuel is increased by 10% because the fuel has to cover the empty miles, and it also has to cover the what I spoke about a few moments ago, which is the PC miler versus the actual hub miles, that 10% there. So I just pumped the fuel up by 10% to cover those miles that are not covered in the mileage reimbursement. So 458 gallons a week, it works out to be $1,833 a week in fuel expenses at $4 a gallon, at 6 miles per gallon. Now I did go online and look, and this new truck, they were saying it gets 6.3 or something, but there's so many factors involved in fuel mileage. You got to be safe. I would also add that the leaser told me that he was that the number that he gave me when I asked was 8 miles a gallon, and you can see actually if I plug 8 miles a gallon here, it makes a pretty big difference. And you see, but my bottom line here is $359.39 a week clear, If I increase that to 8 miles a gallon, it almost doubles. It goes to 689.39. So make sure you do your homework there. When they give you a number, make sure you verify all their numbers, because 8 miles a gallon is a bogus number for that truck, as far as I could determine. I went to a couple of different sites, and it was coming up between 6 and 6.3 miles per gallon is what people were actually experiencing. So those are your variable expenses that will vary depending on mileage. Then these items here are your fixed expenses, which are your plates. That's an expense you incur only after the first year, or only for the first year. After the first year they drop off, which is what this is all about. If I change this to no, you'll see those will drop off in the calculation, but I'll go ahead and leave it on for now. So we got a full spreadsheet. Then the tractor insurance, the bobtail insurance, the OCC, ACC insurance, the Qualcomm, you have to pay for that too, you know, that's $14 a week, and a $1,500 deposit on the Qualcomm equipment, which is a one-time thing. You have to pay that. Once you pay it, you can quit paying it. That too should be dropped off. You see it drops off after the first year. So let me go back. Yes. Okay. Then you have the road tax, which is Form 2290, $550 a week. I haven't actually looked into how that's calculated. It's probably based on mileage and probably varies by state, but that seems to be a number that the leaser is comfortable with, so that's what they're charging you. And then pre-pass equipment and so forth, some other various equipment they would like you to have is $225, and that's a deposit on equipment when you pick it up. Works out to be $4.33 over 52 weeks. So the total expense per mile, when broke down again based on the 2,500 mile number here, is $1.18 per mile, and the rest is relatively simple. 138 minus 118 gives you 20 cents per mile. That's the money that you're making after you pay off your expenses, and you'll be paying it for 7.65 years before that truck is yours. And at 7.65 years, that truck is no longer going to be worth $220,000. In fact, it wasn't worth $220,000 when you drove it off the lot. But that being said, in 7.65 years, it's not like you're going to sell the truck and make any money. You're just going to get back a little bit, and that's going to be that if you're not already dumping money into it from a maintenance perspective. Then the only other thing on the sheet that I ran was the total revenue, A, which is a weekly revenue, and you can see the gross income, which is $499.15 in this case with the new truck. I had 2,500 miles a week. If I go to a used truck, I can change this to no. The truck is not new. And then I can change to first year. We'll say no, it's not the first year. Then we come down here, and the used trucks aren't going to get 6, probably not going to get 5, but I'm using 5.5 as my number because that's what I get in my truck right now. And fuel cost of $4 a gallon, 6 weeks a year off. Actual fuel versus PC miler fuel or dispatch mile fuel is 110%, so you add 10% to your fuel cost. And then 85% income, that's going to income after tax, that's going to vary depending on how much money you bring home. Understood, you have to play with that number. But at $386 a week, or $537 a week, with the write-offs that you'd have for being on the road, I'm figuring you'd be paying somewhere around 15% income tax, just for the sake of calculation here. The only other difference between a lease agreement and a company driver is that you would be self-employed. You would be a 1099 contractor, basically. You'd get your wages on a 1099 versus a W-4, and thus you would be responsible to pay your own income tax. Along with that comes a self-employment tax, and which involves paying 13% Social Security. Right now, if you're a company driver, the company pays half of your SSI, so you got to factor that in there as well. That's 13% of your gross that you're going to have to fork out right off the bat before income taxes even take place. So $386.65 a week would be my take-home pay, and it'd be 1 week less on a lease, working towards my 5.22 years in the case of a used truck at $150,000, which is the number they gave me for their used trucks. Now keep in mind the used trucks are 2013 ProStars. They've been out on the road for 2 years. That means they got probably at least 200,000 miles on them already. And the maintenance on what the number that they gave me on the maintenance was 5 cents a mile. Your bumper-to-bumper warranty, you're probably going to lose it after 2 years with the used truck. So that means with a ROI of 5.22 years, that leaves you 3.22 years vulnerable to breakdowns, where your 5 cent a mile escrow may or may not work. Again, the used truck is pretty vulnerable on the maintenance side. The new truck is less vulnerable on the maintenance side, but you're working 30% longer to pay the truck off. So, and when you get done, you're basically left with a truck that's not under warranty anyway. So I didn't see an advantage either way. And oddly enough, this was kind of an interesting thing. These guys, they know what they're doing. If I were to do a new truck, yes, and the first year of the lease, yes, and change this number to 6 miles a gallon at 2,500 miles a week, you see my per mile pay is 20 cents a mile. Interesting, right? Okay, now let me go up here to not a new truck and not the first year, or yes, the first year of the lease. Change this number to 5.5, and look at that, still 20 cents a mile. So the amount of money you're going to make new on that truck, new versus old, is really not affected at all, insofar as the way the numbers crunch. The reality being, with a new truck, you're probably going to be less susceptible to a breakdown, but that would be about it. I'm not sure that that's worth it. With a new truck, you're going to extend your 400,000 mile bumper-to-bumper warranty from 400,000 to 600,000. Anything beyond 600,000, you're kind of left holding the bag on. So keep all that in mind. All these numbers were numbers that they gave me. $28 a year for the first year of plates, $95 a year for the tractor insurance, $8 a year for bobtail, $42 a year for OCC, ACC insurance, $14 for the Qualcomm, $1,500 on the deposit, $550 for the road tax, and $225 for the pre-pass and goodies. So I wanted to share this spreadsheet with you and give you my basic opinion of the offer that they extended me. I ain't doing it, and anyone in their right mind would have to really have really good luck to work for $300 a week, be on the road 7 days a week, and hope you don't break down. So I have this spreadsheet available. If you'd like it, let me know. I'll be happy to forward it to you. All you got to do is all the gray cells are cells where you have to plug in a value. You have to get those values from the leaser, and and it should work for you. At least put some bookends around an otherwise kind of open thing. I got to say one thing though. I looked at that in 2015 Lone Star. It was one fine looking truck, man. It was sweet. I was really hoping I could make it work. After I saw the truck, I'm thinking, man, I got to make this work. But ain't no way. Ain't no way. I make a hell of a lot more money than that right now, and I can't see living in that truck for 7.5 years before it's mine. That just doesn't work. My guess is that most people end up walking away from these leases because the reality is you're not going to get 2,500 miles a week consistently. You're going to have weeks where you get 2,000, weeks where you get 3,000, but I bet you there's a hell of a lot more weeks at 2,000 than there are 2,500. And I tried to make the spreadsheet as realistic as possible, and you can always play with the numbers and affect your level of reality. But for me, I can't make it work no matter what. In fact, if I go with a new truck, yes on the new truck and change the miles per gallon to reflect the new truck number, and then change my miles to 4,000 miles a week. 4,000 miles a week, every week. I can pay the truck off with time off in 4.78 years, but I'll still only be bringing home $582.59 a week, and that's based on no time off. That's $2,100 a month with 6 weeks off a year. That's $25,000, almost $26,000 a year. You're taking on a $220,000 liability for a $26,000 a year job. I just can't make it. It doesn't make sense to me. So I called the gentleman back and I said thanks, but no thanks. And if somebody calls you out of the blue and offers you a good deal like this, unless I'm missing something, I would say no thanks. But if I've missed something on the spreadsheet or in the way that I've looked, the way that I've done my balancing here, I'd really appreciate you letting me know. Because if there's a way to make it work, I would love to make it work. But right now, I gotta say thanks, but no thanks.